from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be with you this Monday night. We're live, we're national, and here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. It is Cinco de Mayo. Feliz Cinco de Mayo. That's also my birthday. I am 47 years old today. Just like the 47th president of these United States, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito. And I want to jump into some of the stuff that El Trompito talked about because interesting news day, right? We talked about lots of things. He beat up Jasmine Crockett a little bit. Then there was some conversation about how intelligent she was. There was conversation about self-deportation. There was conversation about a whole lot of things. And we're going to get into a good number of them as we kind of unpack everything that was going on. But happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing fantastic and had a great weekend. And let me see. Beautiful flight out of the U.S. if they self-deport. That is what the president is promising them. You got to love the way he sells this stuff, right? I think the latest offer I was hearing on the news, I don't know if that was an official offer, but they were saying they'll give you some money, like $1,000 or something like that. Here's $1,000 and you get the chance to come back. I think there's going to be a good handful of people that accept that accept that offer. And I say it laughingly because I think people are in this country for a myriad of reasons, right? There are a good majority, I would say, that want to earn money and see an opportunity here to earn money to make a better life. I think there's probably some sleeper cells and people that want to change the fabric of our country, that want to make America a different place, whether it's a different place in terms of religion, a different place, or maybe a different place in terms of what just norms are, right? Pushing the ideological envelope on norms. For example, those that say, we should allow men who identify as women to play in women's sports because that's how they identify, right? So there's always a new deal there. And for many, it's, as of late, it's the growth of their culture and part of their culture being their faith, their religion. And in Florida, Central Florida to be exact, the chairman and president of American Islam, the board of the Islamic Society of Central Florida. His name is Muhammad Musri. He had this to say. Check this out.
We are buying these churches. We bought 3 churches so far, converted them to masjids, and now we have one we are buying with a school to make it, because we have to serve the same people. The people who were part of that community, one day they will be Muslims. So we'll make it into a masjid and an Islamic school for our children and their children, inshallah. 100 years ago, they invaded the Muslim world and they built missionary schools and destroyed Islamic schools and masjids. Today, we bring the favor back, turn their churches into masjids and their schools into Islamic schools. Bring the light of Islam to here. We're able to buy ready to go institutions that have been there for a long time, but they emptied out. And now it is time to be filled with Muslims, with reverts, converts. This is an election year. But we're not going to be happy with either candidate. We have to be happy when Islam becomes the best candidate for us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give Islam the victory in this country.
So that is a clip that was from the summertime. And my good friend, Mr. Producer, the executive producer of the Mark Levin Show, grabbed that clip and shared it with me. And this is, I shared it because a couple of weeks back we talked a little bit about this. And my opinion of this might upset some of you. But I always believe in letting people do what they do. And may the best man win, may the best ideas win, because we're all competing in the marketplace of free thought. So I don't have any issue. You know, you're never going to hear me say, oh, well, you know, this is a Christian country and go back to, no. If you can convert America to Islam, go for it. Right? Because now that puts the onus on me. It's my job to go ahead and say, look, this is my faith. This is what I believe. Because this man just said he bought 5 churches and turned them into mosques. I haven't bought 5 churches. I haven't built 5 churches. So which one of us do you think is working harder towards our goal of proselytizing, of sharing one's faith? That's the point I'm making. I can't get mad at somebody for playing the game. You know, there's an old saying, right, when I was a kid coming up, don't hate the player, hate the game. And this is a perfect example of that. They're doing what they've got to do to recruit these people and buy these churches. They're doing what they're doing to get people elected, specifically so that they can create all Muslim city councils and local governments. If this is the goal they're setting out to and they're working toward it, and it's happening because the majority in society are turning a blind eye and saying, go right ahead. Do what you got to do. Now, look, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with being a Muslim. I think that the ones that I know, wonderful people, we've had Zuhdi Jasser and others on this program. This isn't about my thoughts on that stuff or my defense of Christianity versus this or that. It's really not. It's about the Constitution. It's about the United States. It's about, this is a place where people that want to be Wiccans, right, the actual, like, Satan people, the witches and warlocks, these people have protected speech. They have a protected right to practice their crazy, right? Or I should say their religion. So you put all that together and you say, look, if that stuff's all going down, that stuff is going down because we're letting it go down. And we see these types of examples all across society, right? You look at things and you say, hold on a second. Why is it that, like, for example, Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, guy from Netflix, right? He was portrayed to be a very wacky kind of guy. But he gets, 20-something years in life, or 20-something years in jail because they say he tried to kill Carol Baskin, right? He recruited an FBI person to carry out the hit. But then you got this guy, Carmelo Anthony, who stabs somebody. The guy dies, and this guy gets out on bond. How does that even work? They denied the bond initially for Joe Exotic. So, these are some of the wouldn't even call them a double standard. I'd say it's like we have no standards at all. And when it comes to people trying to change society, if they're working harder than you, they're going to win. So what's the message here? We've got to work even harder. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Hey, everyone. It's James Garrettson here from the show Tiger King. A lot of people may know that, I was one of the reasons that Joe Exotic went to prison. I thought I was doing the right thing, trying to help some animals and, got caught up in a mess. So after the court case was over, a lot of things came to light about different people with different relationships and so on. And, I think I might have been played a little bit. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to piss off a lot of people, and it's probably going to piss off our government. But I think it's time to try to reach out and get Joe Exotic out of jail.
Well, I got to tell you, I love to piss off the government, and he's still in jail, and he's on the line with us, calling us from the Federal Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Joe Exotic, welcome back.
Rich, I appreciate you having me tonight. And before I forget, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. I appreciate that, brother. And you sound good. You sound chipper. You sound healthy. How are things going?
Well, I'm battling lung cancer and prostate cancer, but I got to keep this positive attitude because I have a gut feeling at some point President Trump is going to hear some of these messages out there, and I'm going to go home. So I got to keep the faith, and I got to not let prison turn me into an inmate because I just refuse to become an inmate.
I hear that, brother. Now, I wanted to get your take initially on this Carmelo Anthony stuff from a couple of weeks ago because I know that when you got into trouble, there was a denial of your bond issuance, and this guy did not get the same denial. The guy that he stabbed died, and you didn't stab anybody, nor did they die.
Well, nor did I touch anybody or threaten anybody myself, And now that you've heard James Garrison admit that it was all made up, basically, and they all admitted on national television that they made it up and committed perjury. But, the thing, Rich, that people have to really stop and think about, where is the problem? Is the problem... It's really not our Constitution because the 8th Amendment says you have the right to non-excessive bail. Okay, but I think where our problem is because you have state charges and you have federal charges, and Carmelo got, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Carmelo
Anthony.
Yeah. He willingly took a knife to school and stabbed another kid in the heart and killed him. Okay, and got his bond down to 10% of $250,000. It's only $25,000, and he's free until he gets tried and convicted and sentenced. It's just like the illegal immigrant down in Houston that killed his 5 neighbors. He got a $1 million bond. And 10% of that's only $100,000. I didn't touch anybody, and the feds held me without bond. But the problem is those are state charges, and if you get wrapped up in a federal charge, just like most of the people in here for nonviolent drug cases, hell, they're in here with 5 grams of meth, and they're held without bond. So we got to fix our system somewhere, whether it's a judge problem, because every 4 years we appoint Republican judges or Democrat judges, and you know how Democrat judges don't believe in keeping people in jail and crime and stuff, So where do we got to fix it? And do we...
This call is from a federal prison.
Think from a standpoint of being through this system, what we got to do is we got to change the Constitution to make all judges elected by the people.
Yeah, and we definitely have a judge problem. We saw that with Judge Dugan and Judge Kano last week, both harboring illegal aliens that were criminally wanted. And I want to switch gears. Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, star of the Tiger King on Netflix. And Joe, the president of the United States today made an announcement about tariffs on foreign-made television, or foreign-made films, I should say. Give this a quick listen.
The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially.
Supporting them financially. Joe Exotic, what do you think about tariffs on films that are made outside of the United States?
You know, Rich, I'm not sure about tariffs in general, but the problem is when I was making my own reality show in Oklahoma, the permits and everything are so excessive in the United States that if we could bring those down, I think you would bring a lot more film industry into America. But, you know, when you're filming things like you know, if I get out of here, I'm going to film, I want to make a film about the conservation of wild tigers. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go to some other countries to do that because we don't have them in this country. But I think we would get a lot more film industry to stay in America if we could just get the permitting and stuff down to allow it.
Yeah, you're saying less regulation, less bureaucracy.
Much. We have our hands in so many cookie jars that it's crazy. You know, it's kind of like, you know, President Trump. I respect him till the cows come home, but this stuff about opening Alcatraz is another thing.
And now, if Trump opens Alcatraz, are you willing to transfer there?
Hell no. I'm in a very, very sweet place right now. But what President Trump needs to do is get Elon Musk in the BOP and find out where the corruption is in here, because you're not going to open up Alcatraz when you can't keep the ones operating that we already have. Because it's really bad in here. It really is. The staff is overworked, underpaid. The food is pathetic. The buildings are falling down. He really needs to find out where all this money's going.
Yeah, I hear that. Folks, we're on with Joe Exotic, star of The Tiger King on Netflix, calling us from a federal corrections facility in Fort Worth, Texas. Shout out to KLIF. And Joe Exotic, are you still there?
I am.
All right. So with about a minute and a half to go before the music plays and they kick us both out of here, what's your take on what's going on with the Democrats and doubling down, coming to visit the prisoner at the jail in El Salvador? Has anyone come to visit you from the Democrat Party?
Nobody, and you know that makes a person that's an American citizen, whether you're wrongfully incarcerated or you deserve what you got when you're in here. But when you're spending taxpayer money to go all the way to El Salvador to stick up for somebody that came to this country and broke the law the minute they walked across the border, you know, and this is coming from somebody that's engaged to an illegal immigrant. It's not fair and it's not right. You know, I have Matt Gaetz, you know, that sticks up for me. I have Congresswoman Representative Lauren Boebert that sticks up, but nobody has reached out to me. I've gotten more help from you than I've gotten from any politician, especially Democrat. But the Republicans, you know, Matt Gaetz was a Republican, Lauren Boebert was a Republican, and they've reached out and voiced their opinion that I deserve a pardon and I shouldn't be here. But unfortunately, their voices must not be loud enough.
I hear that, Joe Exotic, and the music means we got to go, brother. Good to hear from you. Stay in good spirits. God bless you, Joe.
You have a good birthday, and next time you see Trump, put a word in for me, please.
You bet, brother. All right, amigos, we come back. Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, and your calls and more, 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. We're coming back. I'm Rich Valdez.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company on the late shift here. 833-482-5337. I promise I'll get to your calls momentarily, but I want to talk about a couple of things. And one of the things I want to kind of break into here and take apart just a tad is some comments from both El Trompito and from my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known as AOC, All Out Crazy. And AOC, All Out Crazy, she is, I don't know, I want to say misunderstood, right? And I think this is an issue that we run into quite often with Democrats, and I'll explain why. She believes that everything that is done to enforce our immigration laws is somehow malicious, that there should be zero enforcement of immigration law. And the reason I say that is because, well, listen to this.
Trump administration, they like to say, and this is what Trump ran on, right? He said, we're only going to go after the quote unquote criminals. Yeah, exactly. We're only going to go after the.
Now, they're only going after the criminals. Well, I mean, from what I see, that has been the case, right? And again, I do the math differently than most people, right? You've got Trump coming in with home and they hit the ground running. They go in hard, like really hard. They're going after people with known records, people that are known to be associating with these two organizations, organized crime outfits that are now both labeled FTO, right? Foreign terrorist organizations. They weren't that before. Now they are. So now it's not just ICE and DHS and the rest of federal law enforcement, but now that brings in the Department of Defense. I think this is a big deal and a very important distinction. Now she says that they're only going after the criminals. Understood. And yes, it's true that people are saying that people in the administration are saying, you know, if you're in the country illegally, you can be deported. Yes, understood. But just look at how it works, right? Even if this is coming in phases, that's not the case. Nobody's going after the people that are, and I'm not saying they won't eventually. I'm just saying they're not. That's just not the case, because this is always about making the country safer. And while an unending supply of cheap labor is a threat to our economy, to our national security, and all of these things, I understand that. It's not the reason people elected Trump. Trump got elected because little girls, and I say little with all due respect, but, you know, my daughter, she's 23, she'll be 24 in July. She was a senior in college this last year. She graduated, she's graduating soon, but she finished all her coursework. And she's the same age as Laken Riley. Stuff like that hits home for me. The anger and the desperation that people feel when you look at a situation like that, that has nothing to do with somebody working off the books as a dishwasher. That has nothing to do with somebody, you know, cutting grass or doing sheetrock work or anything like that. This is not me saying that's okay. I'm saying that it's apples and oranges. And for AOC to try and conflate the two, because in effect she's trying to say that, you know, everybody is the same kind of bad guy. Not my position to figure those things out, right? But it's clear as day to me. There are still hotels in the middle of New York City where everybody knows the people in there are illegal migrants. There is no big white ICE van outside of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, just waiting to catch people. They know where they are. So clearly they're going after the criminals. Go ahead.
Quote unquote criminals. However, their position is that everyone undocumented is a criminal. That's what they think. They think that the DACA recipient, that the baby that was here from 2 years old, whose only country they have ever known is the United States, that maybe have served in this country or now is a doctor, is a quote unquote criminal. They
Hold
think
on. Now, listen to this. They think that every 2-year-old that was born in this country is undocumented? I mean, does she hear what she's saying? So we're going to start going to preschool classes and deporting them? Is that the next thing for ICE to do? That's what she wants you to believe. But that's never happened. It's not going to happen. Nobody would stand for that. The little kids are born in this country. They're obviously citizens. Now, she's trying to make the case that the administration is trying to eliminate the 14th Amendment, or I shouldn't say eliminate, I should say clarify the intent of the 14th Amendment or eliminate birthright citizenship, it's a different story. That's not trying to deport 2-year-olds. And again, the 2-year-old that was deported, and I think we have some audio on that. We could play that in a little bit. This 2-year-old was deported at the request, at the behest of the kid's mother, who was being deported, and said, I want to be deported with my child to keep our family intact. And this administration gladly complied. Now, I'm not trying to say that this is charitable. I'm not saying anybody's doing anybody in favors, but it could have been worse, right? It could have been, no, you know what? Like anybody else who gets arrested. You don't get to bring your kid with you. So, I mean, AOC, stop looking at the glass as half empty. Go ahead.
They think that folks who are undocumented are that. But on top of that, they're not even just going after undocumented people. They are making people undocumented by revoking legal status.
Now, this is the one. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do if you have legal status, right? You are on a visa, a work visa, a tourist visa, permanent resident card, meaning you're a resident of the United States, you're not quite a citizen. If you want to apply for citizenship, you can, but you can work here, you can live here, you can, file to pay your taxes. Super. So if you have this type of legal status, and it comes contingent upon you following the rules, and you decide, I'm not going to follow these rules, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to, you fill in the blank of the infraction. Is it not fair and appropriate and almost required that you lose your ability to be as a guest in this country or as a permanent resident if you're willing to forfeit that by committing X, Y, and Z crime? I think that's fair. And, I've shared this before. I have a couple of buddies in high school that did stupid things. And I really mean stupid, right? Kids that had no business doing armed robbery type of things and did armed robbery type of things. And I bring that up to say 3 of them. One born in Colombia, came here at 6 months. Another one born in Chile, came here at like 18 months. A third born in Nicaragua, came at like 2 months old. But none of them were born in the U.S., these 3 people. And when they committed these crimes, they paid their debt to society. They did multiple years in jail. At 17, 18 years old, they went in. They came out at 24 years old, 23. And they were deported immediately. Several of them were going to a country. One of them had never known this country other than having literally been born there. And one of them didn't even speak much Spanish and got deported to a country in South America. So why do I say that? I say it to say that's always been the case. You revoke somebody's legal status when they break the law. That's what you're supposed to do. Jeez. And then they wonder why I call her AOC, all out crazy. Anyway, President Trump responds, and he says, not really responds, but he kind of sets the record straight on what he plans to do with many of the people that want to be in this country. He's given them a chance to go home and apply to come back. Now, I don't know how effective that is going to be, but I think there's going to be some degree of excitement around an idea like that because of the flexibility. So, I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on this. Your calls are welcomed. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. I want to get your thoughts on what's going on here with President Trump and the self-deportation he's been talking about, AOC, and all of the other craziness that's out there. Let's go to the phones. I want to go to Denise calling us from the Atlantic City area and sometimes from Ridgefield, WOND country. Denise, go right ahead.
Oh, yeah. First of all, the only reason I called is I wanted to wish you happy birthday. It's my son Wes's birthday as well. And
thank
he's
you.
a fireman. He's a fireman in Richfield, and we had a cake for him before he went to a fire meeting. So happy birthday, man.
Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. Great birthday, Cinco de Mayo. Let me tell you, a couple of years ago, I was telling the producer a little while ago, I remember one year fell on a weekend, many years ago, and I went to Hoboken to celebrate. And let me tell you, what a vibe it is to go to any, bar type of town where it's bar after bar after bar on it's like having a birthday on St. Patrick's Day. It was just a great, great time. So I appreciate it. I didn't go to any bars today, but I did have lunch at the Hard Rock Cafe with my daughters. And I did it, believe it or not, in Philadelphia because I'm flying out to Virginia later this week for my older daughter's graduation from college. She's graduating from Liberty University. And super proud of her for that. But at the same time, my younger daughter has an expired passport, and that's, this week is when the real ID goes into effect. So if you don't have a real ID and your passport is expired, then you don't get to go on an airplane. So I had to go down to the Department of State office in Philadelphia. It's the only place that could do a same-day passport for my younger daughter. And I spent the day doing that. So we had lunch at the Hard Rock. But thank you, Denise, for the call. I really appreciate it. Shout out to WOND and to your son. Thanks for his service as well. Let me see. We continue. I want to go to Steve. Steve's calling from Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Steve, go right ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Mr. Velez.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so I think maybe I just want to clarify things for everybody who's listening who may not be clear from listening to what you said and AOC said, is that Biden started the what's it called? The app that he used to bring people in?
CBP-1.
That's right, CBP-1. And they would fly from their country, Venezuela, wherever, China, for God's sakes, probably too, and fly directly into the United States, never cross the border, okay? Right? And they were given a special protected status under executive order. What's that?
Temporary protected status, TPS.
There you go. Exactly. So all that Trump did was create a new executive order to override his executive order, taking away that protected status. And I think that's what AOC was talking about. You agree?
No, I think AOC, I mean, she may have been trying to reference some of that, but the courts are trying to stop Trump from doing that. And moreover, I really do believe that AOC is trying to criminalize the enforcement of our immigration laws. I really think she thinks it's a bad thing, and that there are radicals, right, in every position, right? For years, you've probably heard people say this about any issue. Well, I don't really do that. It's not my thing, but listen, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. You do what you got to do. If that's what you like to do, then you do that. I'm not going to stop you. Just not for me. Right? And you could say that about a million different things, right? People take those types of positions. That's a pretty moderate position on many things. That's okay. You do you, as long as it doesn't bother me. But the reality is sometimes what other people are doing will bother you. It will affect your kids, right? For example, let's say somebody wants to dress up like the opposite sex, right? Or become the opposite sex. You could say, look, if you're a man and you believe you're a woman, God bless you, man. That's up to you. But when you have to take your kid to your little girl, let's say, and you tell her, all right, go ahead, go in the ladies' room, and I'll wait for you out here. And while you're waiting for your little girl to use the restroom, she's in there with a dude that's, peeing standing up or whatever. These are issues that now affect you. You've got to start answering questions to your kid, like, oh, why does that lady have a beard? Why is she peeing standing up, et cetera, et cetera. So I think with anything, there are people that have extreme positions. My position on that is pretty extreme. I don't think we should do that. I don't think we should have any of it. Like, zero. I don't think you're not going to hear from me saying, hey, look, that's what you want to do. Go ahead and do it. That's the reality of life, right? If you are, like some that have called this program, trans, and I'm not going to chastise you and not acknowledge you as a human being, of course I will. Do I recommend this? Do I say, hey, look, if that's what you want to do, no, that's your choice. You've made your choice. I'm not going to even give an opinion on that. It's not something I recommend for me, and that's something I recommend for my children. And I think the issue here is that AOC's position is very radical. I think she believes that people have a right to be in this country, not citizens of this country. Others, people from other countries have a right to be here because of whatever they're claiming their rationale is. And I think that is where it becomes problematic. Thanks for your call, brother. I appreciate it. Shout out to Georgia, WGKA. More to come. Saratoga, New York, Boise, Idaho, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And to the phones we go. Let us go to Saratoga, New York, where they make the best blue bottled water. WGDJ. Jane, go right ahead.
Hi, Ruth. Okay, I want to point something out here. AOC is going to team up with Bernie Sanders. I used to live up in Vermont and New Hampshire. That's where I did abuse.
Oh, yeah, where you did your work. You told us in the past and how he would get in the way.
Right. Now, what's going to happen is the people up there for a very long period of time, they brought Oriental people in over the Canadian border. The restaurants up in that area would hire mostly young, unmarried women, and many of them were used as prostitutes. And they also would encourage these young women to have babies. The babies were also, many were aborted. And that's quite a business they had going for quite some time. And they would bring Oriental people across the Canadian border quite often. They'd run them in.
Like for experimental purposes?
To work for them.
Oh, like slave labor
money
purposes.
For them.
Got it.
Yeah. And like they'd come in from the lakes across into Buffalo and go down. It was quite a business they had going. And they would even have Orientals go out on boats, like in the Boston Harbor, and wait until the middle of the night and steal their catches, like lobster and things like that.
Wow. Well, there's always some sort of exploitation going on. And, there's a part of life that I've learned, not that I condone, but I've learned. And the big fish always eats the little fish. The person with more power always, kind of lords over the others. That's kind of like a law of nature. And I think us as humans don't necessarily play by those rules, but those rules still apply irrespective of how we play. Jane, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Everybody on hold, we're coming right back. There's another hour to come, but if this is the end of the road, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program. We're live, we're national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you all on open phones across America. Here's the number, 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And, of course, no shortage of things to talk about. El Trompito Donaldus Magnus was put on the hot seat. Not only was Kristen Welker from MSNBC, NBC News, asking him about his intentions to run for a third term, but she also said he was an authoritarian. And not before El Trompito could set the record straight. Listen to this, number 18.
Let me ask you big picture. People who have lived in countries like the Philippines, Hungary, Russia, they look at some of your actions going after civil service, going after universities, law firms, the media. They say it's out of an authoritarian playbook. What do you say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path?
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think you could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually, I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig. But let me just say, so when you make these statements about people say this, people, well, you know, they had their chance at the election and they lost big. So you should ask the question differently. You should say, what about the people that want to be in this country? What about the people that love this country?
Outstanding. Outstanding response. Because, you know, there are certain things that you have to do in life. And by that I mean, whether you're authoritarian or not, you're likely going to do some of these things, right? Going after the civil service. So does that mean he's an authoritarian or he's a conservative that doesn't want to have a bloated bureaucracy? Going after universities. When you have universities that are promoting DEI and any other type of radical leftist propaganda, why on earth would we opt to make that the norm and have children or even young adults learn this stuff? I don't think we should, right? So I think you're always going to have these approaches, and they make sense to me, right? Going after universities, going after law firms. When you have law firms that are dictating the rules and strategically, filing lawsuits and doing what they do, the lawfare that they are in charge of against their enemies. Ultimately, when you call them out, you're going to call them out. So, of course, I mean, this makes all the sense in the world to me. Yet it's if you fight back at all, they want to say that you're a bad guy. This is not a wise strategy because I think ultimately with the people, they're going to get tired of that. And it's just not going to work in their favor. So, Democrats, there, that is. Anyway, he goes on. El Trompito now decides to explain to her what is going on with Trump 2028. Listen to this.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. Mm-hmm. I have never had requests.
Not only do so many people want Trump to run, and he's never had so many requests, that's fine. She said, are you trying to remain politically viable? Let me tell you something. If I ever had the good fortune of being elected as president of the United States, leader of the free world, and somebody were to tell me 100 days into my term, are you trying to remain politically viable? I mean, I would laugh. I would laugh in their face and say, I am the president of the United States. How do you have a president that's not politically viable, whatever that means? I thought that was such an absurd thing for her to say. But let's continue.
So strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican, to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution does prohibit it. Some of your allies are pretty serious about this, though, Mr. President. I've spoken to them. They say they are coming up with potential ways.
Well,
obviously, the biggest one will be a constitutional amendment.
That's because they like the job I'm doing, and it's a compliment. It's really a great compliment.
Has anyone approached you, though, with an actual plan, a way to actually start the process
well, there are
of a
ways of doing it.
amendment?
There are ways of doing it, and you know the same thing. And if you look at the vice presidential thing and you hear different concepts and different other people say you can have a write-in vote, there's lots of different things. With all of that being said, I want to be a great president. I will have served. Hopefully, everything will go well. I feel very good. I just did a physical. I took, unlike all other presidents, I took cognitive tests and I aced it. I got 100% correct. And one doctor said, there were numerous doctors watching. And he said, I've never seen that before. Biden didn't take a cognitive. He couldn't have gotten the first question right. But I came out great with the physical, both physically and mentally. And I just want to serve, do a great job. I'll be an 8-year president. I'll be a 2-term president. I always thought that was very important, to be honest with you. You know, if you look at President Polk, he was a 1-termer and he did some great things, actually. Pretty good president. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but there's something about being a 2-term president that was very important to me.
What an answer. I think that leaves zero room for equivocation. He said, I'm not interested, but they are. They like the job I'm doing. And she just keeps going and going because she wants to, again, make him into an authoritarian. Right? First starts with, hey, but you're doing this, you're an authoritarian. He says, no, very calmly, too. Now, she doubles down, so does he. The information is still accurate. It's still solid. I love it. And I love that he trolls them, that they literally melt down with Trump might run again. That's great. They should every month they should drop a new piece of merch. 2028, 2027, right? 2030. I mean, just keep going. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's El Trompito firing back at Kristen Welker from MSNBC and her trying absolutely everything to trip him up, and it was totally unsuccessful. Anyway, your calls and more coming up. Plus, our favorite general from the United States Air Force, retired, also former deputy representative to NATO, General Blaine Holt, joins us momentarily. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Obviously, Iran is bad actors in the region. They are on their back foot, candidly, because of the overthrow of the Assad regime in Syria, the takedown of Hezbollah in Lebanon. You know, the best thing we could do to stand up against Iran would be for Israel to end the conflict in Gaza, get the hostages back, because, you know, starting to rebuild and giving the Palestinians some hope for life would allow Saudi Arabia and other nations in the region to frankly recognize Israel and then put an even more united front against Iran.
That is Senator Senator Mark Warner on CNN yesterday. describing what he thinks is the best thing to do to stand up against Iran, for Israel to capitulate. He says that's how you win. Let the bully push you around. This guy's a genius. Why isn't he president? Mark Warner. Unbelievable. But now to someone who actually is president. That one being El Trompito himself. Check this out.
Let me ask you about Iran. Your administration has had conversations with Iran. Is the goal of these talks limiting Iran's nuclear program or total dismantlement?
Total dismantlement.
That's all you'll accept?
That's all I'd accept. Now, there's a new theory going out there that Iran would be allowed to have civilian, meaning to make electricity. But I say, they have so much oil, what do they need it for? But, I've seen it with other states where they're looking to do something and they have a lot of oil. Iran has tremendous energy. I put sanctions, if you know that. I put pretty strong sanctions on 2 days ago on the oil. The sad part is that if Biden didn't get involved, if we had a competent president, you would have never had the attack on Israel. October 7th would have never taken place. Hamas would have had no money because Iran was broke. And now in a period of 4 years during the Biden administration, they became very rich. They have over $300 billion cash in the bank. And they had no money. They were ready to make a deal with me. And it's very sad. Because of this rigged election, they didn't do it. Just another thing you can mark down to a bad election.
It's interesting what you're saying, though, because Secretary Rubio has said that he would accept, or the idea is there is an openness to accepting peaceful civil nuclear program.
Well, that's what people, I didn't say anything contradictory. I said that people are talking about that. And this is something that's really pretty new in the dialogue. And I'd have to be, my inclination is to say, what do you need that for? You have a lot of oil.
So you want total dismantlement, bottom line.
I think that I would be open to hearing it. Civilian energy, it's called. But, civilian energy often leads to military wars. And we don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple deal. I want Iran to be really successful, really great, really fantastic. The only thing they can't have is a nuclear weapon. If they want to be successful, that's okay. I want them to be so successful. And, the Iranian people are incredible. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon because the world will be destroyed.
The world will be destroyed. Of course, that's President Trump. El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States. And making it very clear, very fair back and forth. I played the longer of the clips because I wanted you to hear before he's mischaracterized and, put into a one-pager and say, this is what's wrong with him. This is what's wrong with what he said. I think everything he said was spot on. It made sense to me. We're looking for American energy dominance. And I think that's a good place to be. It's good for our economy. It's good for national security. It's good for everything. But some don't always agree. So I want to get the take of former Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He's retired from the United States Air Force. Of course, he's former deputy representative to NATO, and he's our guest right now. General, welcome back.
So good to be back with you. And wow, did you wave a lot of red meat at me before we got going? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, well, got to get you excited with all the political fodder of the day. And tell me, what do you think? I mean, you got Mark Warner there saying that, we're the bad guys, in effect, and they're the good guys, and you've got to force Israel to capitulate. And Trump's saying, look, they can't have a nuke, and we're putting sanctions on oil, and, he's taking it very easy.
You remember how when he was Senator Biden, he tried to wrap himself up in this branding nonsense that he was the bastion of foreign affairs and understood foreign affairs and was rock solid? Well, this is where Senator Mark Warner has put himself today. But let's unpack just one quick thing that he said that's really important for the audience. He said he's rejoicing over the Assad regime being toppled. Well, that's just half the story, because they were replaced with Al-Qaeda, which is slaughtering Druze, Alawites, and Christians every single day. And they were foisted, no less, into that position by Turkey, which has been jamming the Israeli Defense Forces trying to save those people who are being slaughtered. So that's one from your bastion of democratic wisdom on foreign affairs. And then what is Kristen Welker thinking, jumping back into the cage with President Trump? Did she not learn before? President Trump is completely clear about dismantling Iran. They're not going to have nuclear weapons. There is no way, if they don't want to do it peacefully, they're going to have them taken away from them. The cost imposition will be raised, though. If we have to militarily take those capabilities away from them, the regime will be coming out, too. That's my estimation. But the last part, and I'll stop here, is they want peaceful nuclear power. Fine. You can do it exactly the way the United Arab Emirates is doing it. You don't get to enrich uranium. All the centrifuges go away. That can be imported, and all that other stuff is gone. And if we don't get to see it transparently laid out, well, then you're back to square one. See the first response.
So what does that look like? Again, from your estimation, I understand you don't have a crystal ball, but if the United States has to use the military to enforce this stuff, what does it look like for Iran?
Yeah, so the way that this would work out, I have to believe that we have intel assets on the ground that are ready, willing, and able to help what is going to be inevitable anyway, a future Iranian revolution. It is going to come. Their economy is destroyed. President Trump is bankrupting them. The sanctions are going. Their friends are going away of the regime. Russia has a banking crisis well underway. China is imploding right now economically. So they're alone, and if they have to have it militarily taken away, you will see, my estimation, Israeli jets come in, knock out the air defenses because they have the most experience with dealing with Iranian air defenses. And then you'll see our B-2s come in with mass ordnance penetrators and drop right on into the bunkers, including the ones where the Ayatollahs and the top generals of the IRGC are housed. And that'll be that. We'll try to leave the oil fields alone to leave an economy in place for the new free Iranian people to run their country, and we'll help them.
Sounds pretty neat and clean. Folks, we're going to come right back with General Blaine Holt, who's going to continue to give us his perspectives on what's going on. Former Deputy Representative to NATO for the United States, former Brigadier General, United States Air Force, and all-around great guy. We're coming right back with General Blaine Holt. And, of course, if you miss any part of these interviews, I want to encourage you to check out the interview, hit the Listen Live button, or check out the archives at richvaldez.com. That's Rich Valdez with an S. Now, straight ahead, we're going to get into drones. Is China leading the way with drones? And what's up with these drone swarms? And what do they do? And how do they affect us? Well, we're going to talk to General Holt about that as well. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Chinese drone swarms coming to an airspace near you. This is China's drone swarm machine, capable of launching 48 kamikaze drones in a single salvo, and the drone canisters can be fitted to a helicopter as well. The drones exit the canister pneumatically, with the canisters deploying a parachute for ground safety. The drones are said to have 40 minutes of battery and can be controlled in a swarm using a HUD display, arguably more effective than an MLRS.
What is the status of drones from China? It sounds like China is now assembling these drone swarms, 1,000 drones, all sorts of drones. I don't know much about drones other than they take great pictures. But General Blaine Holt does, and he's here with us. General, welcome back. Tell us a little bit about what is going on with the advancement of China and their drone program.
Well, this is where we probably should have spent more time deterring the Ukraine-Russian war, because drone warfare now has a sharp edge on it and is going to a new technological place. It's very bothersome. When you match that against the People's Liberation Army in China, that is really sitting on incredible state-of-the-art technology in drones from their civilian company DJI, which thankfully is now being shown the door in the United States. It is a very formidable capability. It's not what keeps me up at night, because there are cost impositions that we can levy on the Chinese to dissuade them from ever putting that on us. But I do worry about proliferation of Chinese technology into the hands of our adversaries. That's one. Two, we'd have more problems with illegals that came across the border trying to look like asylum seekers, but they're really People's Liberation Army soldiers, and they number in the thousands. And they could go after our water, our grid, our cyber. And the other bothersome part of this is that China is imploding now. Xi Jinping has big problems at home, and so does the party, and so does the PLA. That makes, in Chinese politics, that makes them ripe for doing something on the world stage to deflect and distract the people from what the party has done.
Kind of a show of strength, if you will.
Exactly. Or it's not, telling their population the reason you can't eat and you've got a 50% unemployment rate and that the banks won't pay you your money is because President Trump and tariffs. That's not the truth. These problems started many years ago, but they're going to go ahead and do that. And then they'll go ahead and create some sort of military event like they did in the Philippines, and maybe even out of Xi Jinping's control, as the PLA tries to wrest control of the party from Xi Jinping. And then we're just part of the theater caught up in the mess, and it could be very deadly.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think that is a typical response that we've seen most communist leaders do and pull off. This, the reason you're hungry is because of the imperialist United States. They do it in Cuba. They've done it in Venezuela. They do it everywhere. And now they're trying to do it, in large ways with through China. Do you think that this is still a message that's widely received?
So this is where they've made their miscalculation. The party itself is very insular. They're very arrogant, and they don't understand how technology has really changed. So they're saying big blustery things like, China can suck this up. We'll endure any hardship. We'll have another famine. That's what Tsai Chi, the number 3 in China, said, like they did in Mao Zedong days with 50 million dying. So the people actually have VPNs, and they can see all of this, and they can see the international commentary around it. And the unrest on the street is so underreported here in this nation. What I expect is Zhang Youxia. He is the top-ranking general of the People's Liberation Army, and very much poised to pull off a junta or a coup, impaneling the previous leader of China, Hu Jintao's his protege, He Chunhua is his name. So there's a lot going on, palace intrigue, but it does make it dangerous for the world, and I think President Trump's very well aware of that.
Amigos, we're on with General Blaine Holt, former deputy representative to NATO. He's retired now from the United States Air Force. And General Holt, I hope that we can resolve things with, our various adversaries, whether it be Iran or China or whomever, pretty expeditiously. Do you think that this is the case with China? I feel like Iran is a little bit kind of forced to be flexible because they don't have so many options. But I feel like China is going to be a little more obstinate, or maybe I'm wrong. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Russia is got definite needs where we have leverage. They need to correct their banking system and get access to European markets. China has a altogether different problem, although they're now transitioning from a recession to a depression. They have a cultural issue with the leadership, and it's called saving face. And that's why they did the exact opposite of what they should have done when President Trump laid on these tariffs. They said, okay, well, we're going to do tariffs. And then the worst thing was, instead of saying, let's talk it over, then they lied to their people about easing the tariffs on us, and we didn't change our thing. So my analysis is, with everybody else in tariffs, this is about economics. With China, this is about something altogether else. And let's not forget they enable 100,000 deaths in our nation every single year.
Yeah. Really, really crazy stuff here. General, tell us about your latest column on Newsmax.com.
So it's what we're talking about. I just released an article, and there'll be a companion article coming out this week. But in the matters of China, and I know that Scott Bessent understands this, he is a master strategist. You're cornering the dragon. Your regime change is coming because of some of these policies. And when you corner the dragon, you've got to be ready for the second and third order effects of that, the things that you didn't see coming. And I would look very carefully at the People's Liberation Army assets that are here in our own country, Taiwan, Philippines, the cartels. There can all be flashpoints of danger as the Chinese dynasty known as the Mao dynasty falls.
Outstanding. Let everybody know how they can check out your work, how they can follow you, and learn more.
Well, please come to the Insiders page at Newsmax. You'll find me there, Blaine Holt, or the Irascible Disruptor. On Twitter, I'm at _Irascible. And whatever I'm putting up, I'm always open for critique, feedback, and a good discussion.
Outstanding. Folks, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, Deputy Representative to NATO for the United States. Sir, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being with us and for a really good conversation.
Absolutely, my pleasure, brother.
You bet. God bless you. And amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions are coming up right now. Open phones across America, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. You sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, to the phones we go, 833-482-5337. Let's go to Dan, Ontario, Canada. That's where Doug Ford is the premier. He's listening to the show online. Go right ahead, Dan. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Good evening, Mr. Valdez. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Our prime minister is going to be in Washington tomorrow talking to your President Trump. He's Mark Carney. He's a liberal. I didn't vote for him. I'm a conservative. My concern is this. Your president wants to destroy our manufacturing industry, and he claims he wants to take us over and annex us. Now, what would you do if you were me? Well, I'm going to tell you what a lot of us want to do.
Go right ahead.
We want to get armed up. We will die on our feet. We won't let our country be conquered.
Okay. And that, when was the last time you guys got armed and defended yourselves in an armed conflict?
We went with you into Afghanistan.
No, I don't mean side by side.
World War I, World War II.
No, I'm talking about having to defend your homeland from an invasion. Kind of like we did with the British.
We haven't done it.
Yeah. I think that's the tough part. Now, I don't think Trump is doing anything by force, and I think it's admirable that you want to, stand up for what's yours. But at the same time, I think there was a great quote that I think it was somebody in Riyadh, somebody from Saudi Arabia said, and they said, Trump has to be taken very seriously, but not always quite literally. And I think that's really well put and very apt. It's spot on. President Trump is doing this clearly to ruffle some feathers, right? It's not about any type of military takeover. It's more like a political play. And I wouldn't read much into that. There's a lot of people online to become the 51st state ahead of Canada, like Puerto Rico. So I don't know if that happens, but it doesn't mean it's not funny, right? I think it's funny and it gets people going. People's juices get going. Their blood starts to boil. And those are all, I think, part of the intended reactions that are expected there. So, Dan, thank you for your call. Godspeed to you and your Canadian brethren. And take a breath. Don't go fighting anybody just yet. Thanks for the call, man. Let us continue. Let's go to Joe, Bethel, Connecticut, WLAD. Joe, go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Valdez.
Joe, good evening, sir.
Bethel wants to wish you a happy birthday. You are wiser than your years.
Thank you, Joe. That's really kind of you. I really appreciate that. Godspeed to you guys in Bethel, Connecticut. And thank you so much for your kind words. That was great. It really made me happy there. Thank you. And let me see. I'm going to keep it moving. We're going to go to Paul. Paul's calling us from Zanesville, Ohio. Paul, welcome back, brother. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Good evening, Rich. You're doing a great job. Happy birthday to you. You're only like 6 years older than my daughter. So I hope you do well. But anyway, my question is to the American people is, President Trump was elected to do what he said he was going to do, and he's doing it. And that's what is going on. Look at AOC and these people. These people sound like they want nothing more to destroy Donald Trump. He's doing what's right for America, bringing back manufacturing, closing the borders. Come on, people, let's get real. I'll give you a Joe Biden moment. Come on, man. Yeah, Canada, if you don't want to join America, don't, man. He's not going to force you, but you've been destroying us with your tariffs and so forth. But Donald Trump is a man for America, who fights for America. And I don't get why a lot of people, especially the media, really bad. I watched the press last night, that Kristen Welker.
Sorry to hear that.
I think once, I'm like you. I watch both sides.
Yeah.
So, I watch that and I see that, they are trying nothing more to destroy Donald Trump. And we, the American people, voted for what he said. And I think he'll do a great job, man. He's only been in office for 3.5 months, right, Red?
100%.
So I just don't get why the people don't understand. Some, the left, the Democrats. I'm an avid listener. I've been listening since back in the days of Jim Hannon. And, God bless him. Rest in peace. But
Amen.
I don't understand why they don't get it. And they start working together for what's right for America instead of worrying about what China says. Look, if you don't want to buy, or if you want to buy more stuff, I want to slow down. Okay, China. How many people have you heard, your family, your friends, your relatives, they buy something and go, made in China? Man, there ain't nothing made in America anymore. Well, yeah. Okay, that's what Donald Trump's saying. So bring our manufacturing back. Bring the jobs back here. I'm tired of hearing people belly moan and groan about what he's doing. The man's going to make a change. And I'm so much glad he's doing it because we have to look at the long term for America, not just what's going to help you, from your day to day. Everybody needs that help, absolutely. But, man, get it right. We have other countries we can trade with. China is nothing more. And listen to Gordon Chang. He'll tell you China's ready to collapse, So they can't do it without us. They're all pissed off because we have finally said, hey, wait a minute. We're done with you. Not done with you. We'll play fair. Let's play fair. And I just don't think that the politicians realize that.
Listen, I think the left is off their rocker. And I think you're right. Ultimately, they, I think they've had their 3 sheets to the wind, right? They've had 1 too many. And that's why they're behaving the way they do. It's somewhat irrational because they can't figure out how people are supportive of someone who isn't lying like they do. I think that's the bottom line here, Paul. Paul, always good to hear your voice. Thank you for your call. It's like a big dose of common sense. Very much appreciated. And amigos, we take a pause right here. We come back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
But what we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from.
We're going to self-deport, get them a beautiful flight from where they came from. And that's the latest plan from El Trompito. Voluntary deportation. Let's go to JW calling us from Dothan, Alabama. WDBT, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, happy birthday. And listen, this plan that Trump has for self-deportation, and he's going to give them $1,000 and a beautiful flight back to where they come from and maybe entry later for them if they're good people. I think that'll get the best of them out of here, but the gang members and the showed up bad ones that we need out here, I think we still going to have to dig them out. Because $1,000 ain't going to do it for them. I mean, they'll make more than that doing all kind of illegal stuff,
Exactly. It's a good point. $1,000. Well, I think he's trying to say the good people, right? The good people who want to make America their home, realizing it's not the $1,000. That's really, I guess, a little stipend to help cover some costs. But it's the fact that they'll let you back in. If you don't, they're not letting you back in. And that's where I think it becomes problematic for those that are looking to, raise a family here or, continue to expand in the U.S. And it has some merit, this plan, but I think there more thought needs to go into it. So we'll see how that plays out. JW, Dothan, Alabama, thank you for your kind words and thank you for the well wishes on my birthday. I appreciate it. Let me see. Let us continue. Let's go to Nance, Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Nance, quickly, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am one of the proud 3 sheets to the wind radical lefties that you refer to. I still haven't figured out in all of these years what it is about my beliefs that make me so radical. But maybe you can tell me. But every night we are diametrically opposed on basically every topic. But why are you not covering the millions of people who have turned out on the streets every week since Trump has been elected if you think that he's doing such a great job?
Well, great question. Took a little long to get it out, Nance, but I will happily respond to it on the other side of our pause. It's a little bit of a lengthy pause because it's the top of the hour, but we're going to come right back to you, Nance. Nance is in Chicago, Illinois, WLS. She is a radical leftist, and she's wanting to have a conversation, so keep it locked right here, amigos. We come back to Boise, Idaho, Charlottesville, Virginia, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and more. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. It is Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. Happy to be here live and national. It's a blessing to be with you. 833-482-5337 is the phone number, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to get into quite a lot here. Now, Pramila Jayapal, she is... senator, and she's talking smack like usual. I want you to hear a little bit of what she says the Democrats have to do. Check this out.
Most Democrats recognize that we have to stand up for our values. At the end of the day, we can't stick a finger up in the air and figure out where we think the polling is going to be and try to be a Republican light party. We actually have to be a Democratic party. We have to stand up for Democratic values, and we have to stand for things, not just against things. I say we got to be a proposition party, not just an opposition party.
That is Pramila Jayapal. And she's saying Democrats seem to be operating with no compass. They don't know where they're going. They're all over the place. And I have to say, this is the essence of what Nance was asking us just a little while ago, saying, what is so radical about my position that you want to call me the radical left? Now, I don't necessarily call everyone the radical left. I tend to call the radical left within the media, the radical left within the establishment, the Democrat establishment. They are radicals, and their position is extreme. It's not the position of a middle of the road, working class individual, right? These are the views of, I don't know, Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba, like the regime in Venezuela. They're those types of views. Not necessarily what you and I would subscribe to. And this is why, right? And from every topic, whether it's abortion or anything else, these are extreme positions. And hey, sometimes you got to take an extreme position. I get that. If the left is taking an extreme position because they feel that that's what's morally right for them to do, then, you kind of got to wish them Godspeed on those things. Doing the best that you can. Say, hey, look, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And you're going to have to figure this out along the way. But I say all of that to say they are, no question, undoubtedly radical. Right? When you have Jasmine Crockett out there, when you have AOC out there saying there is these illegal aliens are not illegal aliens. These are just people that, we're vilifying. We are changing their status to make them illegal. Yes, because we had not been enforcing our law. So now that we are, she's got a problem. These are the types of outrageous, not normal types of positions I think most people see and say, I don't know. I don't know if that's something I want to get behind. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is, why is it that the left typically wants to say things like, hey, look, we support you on this. And they might identify some areas of common ground. But ultimately, that's not their goal. Their goal is to say, we beat you and we have the power. And I guess that's the political nature of many. But ultimately, I think people want to see a little bit beyond just a political matchup. They want to see change happen. They want to see America become, dare I say, great again. Something that El Trompito de Aldous Magnus is actually delivering on. Taking the necessary steps so that we can see a better country, not only for ourselves, but for future generations like our children. And I think that's where we need to be. So those radical positions, oftentimes, they are harmful to what I think is good for our country. And those who agree just have a more radical view of life. And who am I to get in the way of that? So that's my thought on that. Now, I also wanted to give you a little update on what we're looking at here, because there's plenty to talk about tonight. And one of the things I want to get into is the latest with, Iran. We talked a little bit about Iran and China with General Holt. We had additional discussion that I think is important on just everything under the sun, including the Carmelo Anthony stuff, my observations on how the federal investigators that looked into these things treat people, right? When it comes to the differences, like how they treated Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, versus how they treated Carmelo Anthony. One, they say he was colluding to kill someone, Carol Baskin, right, from the Tiger King. And others they want to uphold as a hero, like Mr. Carmelo Anthony, and giving him the ability to post a bond. And these are just, part of the issues that I have with the left. You also have each Congress member after the next, right? One after the other, tripping over themselves to be able to take the pilgrimage down to El Salvador to make the case for a MS-13 terrorist who was deported. You tell me if that's not radical. That's a pretty radical position to take. And for many, on the left, they're just getting started. First it's this, then there's more. So I want to, be clear when I say that's what I'm talking about. Not necessarily you all that might think, oh, I don't agree. Listen, I love a good dialogue. But I also, I'm not blind and I see things. So I want to talk about some of that stuff with you guys. I also want to talk about some of the other stuff that's on the agenda, like what's the latest with COVID, right? There's always this underlying fear that there's going to be another pandemic, this one worse than the last. I think we've become a pretty sterile group of people where the people have become so, I'm going to say, accustomed to was kind of forced on people during COVID that they're just like, living in this bubble, this little sanitary bubble. Whereas others just became rebellious and said, you know what, screw it. I'm not playing your game anymore. So I want to get an update on that stuff, as well as your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to everything going on. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I love your show, everything you do. So what an honor, really, to join you and your listeners tonight.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Imagine a world where vaccines protect everyone, everywhere. Sounds huge, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., known for his work on children's health, is making a major move. He's shifting his focus from COVID-19 to something even bigger: universal vaccines. The plan: invest $500 million to develop and distribute vaccines that are accessible to people from all walks of life, no matter their income. This could help protect more people against diseases and make healthcare fairer for everyone. It's a big shift, and while there are still lots of questions, like which vaccines will be included and how they'll reach people, one thing's for sure: it's got the world talking about what comes next in public health. So, could universal vaccines change the game? Only time will tell.
Are we doing that again? And I think we've, kind of never stopped doing that. But I want to get some reaction to that and everything else that is going on in that part of the conversation, the national discourse, from our guest, David Centner. He's a tech entrepreneur, co-founded the Centner Academy back during COVID to champion the issue of medical freedom. David Centner, welcome.
Hi, Rich. How are you? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And talk to me about your thoughts on this focus or push, I'm going to say, for universal vaccines?
Well, I smell a little bit of a not, I wouldn't say a conspiracy. I'm a huge supporter of Bobby Kennedy. I consider him to be a friend, as many people do. I think that this is he's a super clever man, and I think this is probably a way to decouple Big Pharma's interest in all of vaccine development by directing this huge pile of money toward people who actually work for NIH and start to develop things ourselves without the interest of Big Pharma. And I think that over time, it's not going to be. The mission is probably going to evolve beyond just this universal vaccine thing, which has been a very elusive goal for decades and decades. And we're going to see other types of things that are going to be used where this money is going to be utilized.
What does that look like, and how would we unpack that?
Well, I think that all of this money is going to go directly toward people that work for the government. That there's no Big Pharma interest, and so all these they're going to be government researchers that the money's going to go toward. There's going to be placebo-controlled trials, which haven't happened in the past. There's going to be a transparent platform for the vaccine results. They're redoing the VAERS system, the vaccine adverse events reporting system, which has been very problematic. There's going to be new committees to evaluate the vaccines that don't involve conflicts of interest on these boards. I think we're going to see a lot of changes where Big Pharma is not going to get a seat at the table.
Very interesting stuff. Amigos, again, we're on with David Centner. David Centner is a tech entrepreneur and co-founded Centner Academy to champion the issue of medical freedom. And do you feel that this is a game changer, or is this just par for the course?
Well, I think that there's a lot of changes that are happening very quickly under the Trump administration, and specifically with Robert Kennedy. I think, and I feel like there's a ticking clock that they've got to move really fast because, in a couple of years there's going to be another round of elections, and then in 4 years, everything's going to change. So I feel like I'm very happy with this pace of change, and I think that these are. Not everything's going to turn out great, but there's so many wonderful new ideas that this administration is bringing to us. And some of them are going to work out great, some of them are not, but it's a refreshing change from the past 4 years where it felt like we didn't have any changes being made. It was all kind of devious stuff that was happening in the background, not in our best interest.
Yeah, lockstep with the Big Pharma or whoever was calling the shots. I agree with that. So do you... I guess your ultimate thoughts here, this reallocation of pandemic funds, a guy like me thinks we should just kind of eliminate that and hope to not do any more of anything. Others think that we need to reallocate the funds to more traditional vaccines. Where do you land on this?
A lot of people say that, like, Robert Kennedy is anti-vax, or that myself and my wife, we're anti-vax because of our school. Actually, I think we're pro-choice, informed consent, and for safe and effective vaccines. And has there ever been a safe and effective vaccine? I'm not really sure, but there's going to be, hopefully for the first time, very rigorous testing and a lot of transparency. So, it would be a wonderful thing if a vaccine is brought to market that's actually really does work and has very little side effects, and is accompanied by informed consent, that we have an actual say in the matter of what we get to put in our bodies.
Well, that's the way it needs to be. Outside of that, this is how we run into problems, and why I think people, I don't want to say rebelled, but people really kind of, started to become skeptical of 15 days to flatten the curve when they realized, hey, hold on a second. This doesn't make sense. This isn't fair. It's, you're asking for way much more than you're offering. It's a lopsided equation. And I think people made it clear they weren't interested. Your thoughts?
Well, you said a couple times that my wife and I founded Centner Academy to kind of go against all this stuff. Let me I'll tell you exactly what happened, and it might actually ring a bell. So we created our school several years ago, pre-COVID, in Miami, Florida, Centner Academy, and then COVID happened in March of 2020. Obviously, COVID affected everybody on the face of the earth, but truly challenging because we were in the care of all these children for all their waking hours pretty much, and we very quickly realized that this thing smells funny here with these vaccines and the social distancing and the masks that don't actually work. And so my wife took a very aggressive stance against all of these requirements, and she did so. She told all the teachers to wait until the summer to get the vaccine if they really, really, really needed to. And somebody leaked a video to the media, and it became a global media sensation. Does this ring a bell to you? Do you recall this story at all?
Yeah, I do. I remember that. I remember others where this type of thing happens. And I think it's this type of thing that really grabs people's attention and gets them involved because but for hearing these things, a lot of times people just take a position on the sidelines.
Yeah, so, basically everybody, so we had a school, just like every school probably in the entire country, had a very polarized parent community. Some people were very awake and saw that something isn't quite right in what's being mandated to us, and others really took in the narrative. And so in our school, it was almost a little bit like maybe a blessing in disguise. When all this media attention happened, the ones who were not on board fled for the hills. I mean, but the student body shrank dramatically, and we had to work overtime to build it back up. But as a result, all the global attention brought people from all over the world to our school. So now we have an extraordinarily aligned community. We're probably the most aligned school in the country as a result, which is fascinating.
Outstanding.
Prior to, I want to tell you about around the same time, I had bought another company. My wife and I do a lot of projects, all centered around health and wellness and trying to uplift humanity. So we had bought a company called Erase.com, which has to do with reputation management. This was prior to the controversy that we found ourselves embroiled in, ironically, coincidentally enough. And then fast forward, so we're in the business of helping people improve their reputations online through.
Well, David, before we go any further, I want to make sure you give everybody a chance to learn about where they can visit you and learn more about it before the segment's over. Where do they go?
Well, Erase.com, and we have a new podcast called Erased, which brings on people like Roger Stone and Alan Dershowitz and Papa John Schnatter, who come on and share their stories of their cancellation journeys.
All right. Well, check them out at erasedpodcast.com and CentnerAcademy.com. David Centner, continue the good work. Godspeed to you. Amigos, we come back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones we go. We've got calls from Tennessee, Arizona, Florida, South Carolina, Idaho, and Oregon. And that's just what's on there. There's more coming in. The lines are flashing. Busy night on the phones tonight. We're going to go straight to the phones. And I want to, let me see. I want to hear from our good friend, Pat. He's calling us from Sedona, Arizona, listening online to KFNX. Pat, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, I was just listening real quickly to that gentleman that was just on the radio with you talking about his school and how they kept the teachers to making their own decisions about getting vaccinated, the social distancing. It didn't make any sense. It with me is when they wanted us to not make our gardens anymore, grow our own food. You think during crisis times they would want people to grow their own food and prepare for the and not depend on the government for everything. I mean, this whole COVID thing, it's going to come and it's going to blow up. And I tell you, Fauci, he better be hiding, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that would like to see him get justice in all this. And oh man, I tell you, it's maddening. And I tell you what, I'm a cancer survivor, and right now I have an incredibly rotten immune system, and basically I just stayed home a lot. I didn't go out, and I hated wearing a mask, but if it made people feel good, I felt this to do that, but I didn't believe in it. I didn't fly. I didn't travel for 3 years because of it, because I couldn't wear a mask anyway on an airplane. And I tell you, it's what they did to us without the testing. I mean, if they're going to get better testing with the drug flow, who knows what these drugs are going to do to people down the road. I've known people that had 2 or 3 vaccinations. They got sick and they died, and 2 people or 3 people I know had 5 vaccinations, as they said. I have no definite idea if they really did that, but they said they feel fine. So I don't know if the vaccinations were deadly, but it seemed like as soon as the person took the vaccination, they died. And
yeah, and Pat, the AstraZeneca vaccine was there was a lawsuit that revealed that there were people dying of heart issues in Europe. We didn't use that vaccine here in the U.S., but it was a very big deal, and the European media was kind of forced to cover that. So very good point. You raised an excellent point, brother. Good to hear from you. I'm glad to hear that you're well and that you've beat the health situations and scares you've had, and keep up the good work, brother. Godspeed. Pat in Sedona, Arizona, listening on KFNX. Thank you, sir. Where do I go from here? We go to Leoma, Tennessee, WDXE. Jim, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Yeah, Rich, I heard it was your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir. Cinco de Mayo. Every year, thank God. It's always a fun time. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. I just tuned in when you had AOC on, and you said something about the 2-year-old. Yeah, I like that. I like the name you have for her. I got to remember that.
All out crazy.
Anyway, she said something about 2-year-olds. We were getting rid of 2-year-olds because they were criminals.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, does she just not think her constituents have any thing at all to go by? Would they believe that? I just can't believe it, because I know here in Tennessee, if Marsha Blackburn said something like that, I wouldn't vote for her anymore.
Yeah, well, listen to this, Jim. I think you're right. A lot of people are kind of upset with this type of thing. And Tom Homan, he spoke about this because he needs to set the record straight about all these rumors about the 2-year-olds, and the media. I saw NBC News had a piece about it saying what the lawyers really say of what's going on here. But I want you to listen to this clip from Tom Homan clarifying that whole situation. Check this out.
If you enter this country legally, it's a crime. If you remain in this country legally and you ignore a judge's order about deporting, if you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision, parenting 101. The mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today would be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government. But I don't hear any questions about Laken Riley had a mother. She's never going to see her child again. Rachel Morin, she had 5 children. Those children are never going to see their mom again. This administration is doing the right thing.
I wonder what AOC All Out Crazy has to say about that, Jim.
I don't know, but man, I'll tell you one thing for sure. She must think her constituents are not very smart to go along with that. I just can't believe she's got that many that would vote for her after saying things like that.
Brother, don't spend any time in Astoria, Queens. You might be really upset with what you find. That's where her stronghold is. And very good observation. Jim in Leoma, Tennessee, WDXE. Thank you, sir. We continue. Where do we go? I want to go to, let's see here. Who is next on a line? John, Vero Beach, Florida. Go right ahead.
Yes, hi, Rich.
WTTB.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure. I firmly believe, I'm convinced, that the Democrats have condemned that man who has been deported to the prison to certain death. Why? Because of all the attention that they gave him in the media and sending multiple officials down there to try to get him released. It makes it look to the MS-13 gang members as though he has carried favor and in collusion with the U.S. government. So now the MS-13 people, they want to kill him.
Yeah, and that was originally his whole fear was, if you send me there, they're going to kill me, which makes me think if you were so afraid of going there, then you already had a problem with the MS-13 people, the ones you don't know, the ones you're not affiliated with, when you're not, threatening and harming your wife, you're protecting your gang. No, thank you, sir. I'm with you there. John in Vero Beach, Florida, WTTB. And we come back. We've got Oregon on the line, Idaho on the line, South Carolina, my man, the Gilla from Manila, and so many more. Keep it locked.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Says catch and release is over.
Yeah, I do think when the media has that conversation, we can't rage bait, though. Because, every time they say it, they'll be like, oh, a 2-year-old got deported, a 3-year-old got deported, but they're not telling the whole story of their parent was here illegally, and so the parent got deported, and so they sent the child with them. Because when I hear it, I'm like, why the hell would they deport a 2-year-old? Why would they deport some child with cancer? But then there's a whole other story that goes with it. The only reason I think that, media should be completely honest and tell the whole totality of the story is because that's when people, label things fake news.
That's Charlemagne the God, the host of the Breakfast Club, very popular hip-hop radio program. And let me tell you, he's firing on all cylinders here. He's 100% right. People hear those things and they sound outlandish. Deporting 2-year-olds, why would you do such a thing? Because the mom requested to not leave her kid behind. And the administration said, we're going to do what we can to keep these families together. And that doesn't mean letting you stay here illegally. So it makes all the sense in the world to me for that to be the case. Anyway, I want to get to your calls. Let us go to our buddy Gil, the Gilla from Manila. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, Ricardo. Your predecessor, Jim Bohannon, and I had kind of a ritual in January. His birthday fell in January. And I'd always sing to him the Mexican happy birthday song, Las Mañanitas. I'll do the short version. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba Rey David. Hoy por ser día de tu santo te las cantamos a ti. Despierta, Richie, despierta, mira que ya amaneció, ya los pajaritos cantan, la luna ya se metió. Pam, pam,
Thank you, brother. That was for my first time for me in Las Mañanitas on my birthday from Gil from the Philippines, Gila from Manila. Brother, thank you so much. Very, very kind of you. You are an OG, older generation, I think is what they call that now, and one of the originals, and I really do appreciate it. Gil, Godspeed to you, sir. And we continue. Where do we go? We go next to Don. He's calling us from Manhattan, Kansas, KSAL, and he has a comment on Canada. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, just let our Canadian friend that he doesn't have to worry about the U.S. invading Canada. We don't want to invade Canada, although we do enjoy Trump yanking their chain a little bit. But the best thing that Trump can give to the Prime Minister of Canada when he visits is a copy of our Declaration of Independence, so the Canadians have a blueprint from which to work with as they peacefully change their country.
Yeah, very interesting. I like it. I like it a lot. Don't fight the United States. Fight your own government. Fight your own lefties. Yeah, makes sense to me. And again, I'm not calling for anybody to fight anybody, but if you got to fight your bad guys. Don't make me your bad guy. Yeah, I get that. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. Shout out to KSAL and everybody in Kansas tonight. And let's see, where do we go? We're going to go over here to Larry. Larry is calling us from Charleston, South Carolina on WTMA. Larry, what's going on in Gaza?
Okay, happy birthday. I
Thank you.
happened to see a film clip from Al Jazeera tonight that was on the Gaza, and there was this little girl whose name was Rasha, Rashah, and she had her thin little arms that were just like skeleton arms.
Yeah, from not eating.
Like she was starving to death, and it was. I hope you'll, by the way, you can Google it, starving children in Gaza, and it will come up. In any case, I was hoping to urge you as strongly as possible to use some of your good contacts with Newsmax and General Holt and maybe even some of the White House folks that you could urge them to move the Gazans, the Palestinians, out of Gaza and into a resettlement camp in Saudi Arabia.
Well, that makes some sense. And I think that they've been trying to figure out how to get people relocated to different areas because it's A, war-torn, and B, they want to make it safe. As long as there's people in what's left of Gaza, there is an opportunity to hide, to hide behind people as human shields, and you don't want that. So I'm with you. I think you do need to do that. And from there, you do have to address the situation with hunger and homelessness and everything else that's become commonplace in that part of the world. So thank you for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. Larry, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. And amigos, we come right back with the rest of your calls from Oregon, from Idaho, and West Virginia. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I hope that you are always on the radio because you're just a fantastic American and human being.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we come back to open phones across America. It is the speed round, and I want to go to Tommy calling us from Charleston, West Virginia, WCHS. Tommy, what's going on?
Mr.
Valdez, our conflict at this point in time with Canada, let's put it in perspective. Not from us, U.S. point of view, from their point of view. Mm-hmm. What are they about? There are 40 million people in the second largest per square foot or mile nation on Earth, Russia being number one.
Yeah.
An exceptional portion of their economy is from Quebec, Ontario, and the western provinces, Alberta, BC, Manitoba, etc. It's the eastern provinces which are challenged for several decades economically. Trudeau's father, the now exiting Prime Minister Trudeau, his father, in the 70s, and Chrétien in more recent times in the 90s, were able to stop and politically win a victory in Quebec about secession of Quebec from Canada into a separate nation. If and when that happens, the eastern provinces, what do you think they're going to want to do with their? Let's say it goes down, and the rest of Canada, from Ontario west, makes a deal with Quebec that they can be an independent nation. Those eastern provinces are going to beg to become the 51st state.
Maybe.
So
I don't know. I could see a lot of people, Tommy, deciding to do something like that. I don't know if it ultimately goes that way because, again, I think a lot of people are very proud and they kind of want to have their own independence. And I think as going from a nation state to a state, right, a province, in effect, all of Canada becoming a province of the United States would not go over well with a lot of people. But one never knows. We're going to keep an eye on that. Either one way or the other, I'm not overly concerned. I don't think that there's beef in the streets, as they say. I think it's okay. Tommy, Charleston, West Virginia, thank you, brother. Shout out to WCHS. And we go to Oregon, Pendleton, Oregon. Michael on KUMA. Very quickly, go right ahead.
Yes, hello, my friend. I'm so glad to have the chance to wish you a very happy birthday. And, Rich, thank you for the great job you do on the radio for all of us. Just a quick note, I agree with President Trump. Let's bring the movie industry back to the United States. I mean, we started it with Hollywood. Let's make movies here in America. And thank you, President Trump, for believing in that.
Outstanding. Very, very well put. Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Paul in Boise, Idaho, final word to you. Go for it quickly.
I heard today on the news that Netanyahu and the Israelis were going to take Gaza back. And they were going to make sure the combatants were out of there. And that I don't know what they were going to do with it, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, listen, I haven't heard that one yet, but I'm curious to see what happens. I think it's about time we really get to the whole world peace part of the administration's agenda, because we definitely need to put a lot of this conflict to bed. Thanks for the call, brother. Shout out to you guys in Idaho. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.